Recently, I've been seeing videos talking about the Scarlet and Violet DLC and what it could be about. I've heard people talking about things like revisiting Kalos in some part, exploring more of the Great Crater of Paldea, and even Zygarde making an appearance. I'm here to say that they're all wrong. Well, not entirely, but there's one piece of the puzzle that ties things together that people are missing out on, and I'm here to reveal exactly what it is. Let's dive into it then, shall we? So as I just mentioned, there's been a few theories about what the DLC could be. I've seen people saying things as simple and honestly pretty obvious as we're going to see more of the Great Crater, to some wild claims like we're going to go to Kalos and Zygarde is going to stop the threat of the Paradox Pokémon. I think that both of these theories have some credit to them, but I'd like to share my opinions on both before giving my theory as to what's going to happen. So first we have exploring more of the Great Crater. I think that that's pretty much a given at this point. There's evidence pointing to the crater being much bigger than what we see in the game, and I'm convinced that we are going there to some extent in the DLC. My main problem with this statement, though, is that it's too vague. Like, yeah, it's a no-brainer option to say, we will go to the Great Crater in the DLC. It's just a quick and easy way to make a video that gets tons of views while putting in the minimum amount of effort. To me, it feels really lazy to make such a broad and simple claim with surface-level evidence. I want to see theories with a bit more thought and effort put into them, not just saying, we're going to this place, and leaving it there. Speaking of going places, Kalos. I saw one theory claiming we'd be going to part of Kalos and getting Zygarde to come help deal with the threat of the Paradox Pokémon in Area Zero, to avoid more of them causing problems around Paldea. I will admit, I like this theory, but I really don't think that's what we're going to do in the DLC. I do think Kalos will play a large role in the DLC, just not with Zygarde. Now, I'd like to share my own personal idea for how the DLC will work. I'll first be going over how I think the DLC might play out, then I'll go over what evidence I have to support it. This is what I like to call Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the Crystal Kingdom. First, we'll get a call from Director Clavel. He'll tell us that there have been sightings of wild terrestrialized Pokémon, as well as some odd yet familiar looking Pokémon in a nearby region. He says that the professor there wants us, the Paldean champion who stopped the threat in the Great Crater, to come check it out. We agree and make our way northeast of Paldea to the next region over, the beautiful region of Kalos. Once we arrive, we meet up with a pair of researchers. They introduce themselves as Dexio and Cinna, assistants to Professor Augustine Sycamore. On our way to his lab in Lumio City, which is largely blocked off due to power outages, we spot some wild terrestrialized Pokémon that you need to defeat in battle. After finally arriving at their lab, the professor asks to see your Terra Orb. The item is then taken from you for research purposes. You receive reports of some more strange Pokémon roaming around and you go to take care of it. After doing so a few times, you get a call from Cinna telling you to return to the professor's lab. Once you return, you receive your Terra Orb back with a new upgrade, an implanted Keystone that unlocks the ability to Mega Evolve certain Pokémon. The professor tells you that the energy readings from your Terra Orb match those given off by Pokémon native to Kalos, Carbink. However, these readings are much higher, indicating that they might be related to an even stronger form of Carbink, known as the Crown Jewel of Myths, Diancie. A myth written in a book by Heath goes as follows. Diancie is a stronger mutated form of Carbink that is said to be the queen that rules over a hidden kingdom of jewels. It's not known where this supposed kingdom is located, but the professor has an idea in mind. Professor Sycamore hypothesizes that, due to the similarity in energy readings between Carbink and your Terra Orb, the hidden kingdom of jewels might lie somewhere beneath Paldea, deep in the heart of the Great Crater. He hands you a shining gemstone known as Diancite and sees you off as you head back to Paldea, Dexio and Cinna now tagging along of course. Once you return, you make your way to the Great Crater. At the final research lab, you spot your friends. Arvin is there checking out his father or mother's research, Nimona is there fighting all the strong Pokémon, and Penny's there studying the insane technology. Everyone heads outside and a rumbling occurs. A Carbink pops out from one of Dexio's Pokeballs and starts wandering off towards a giant wall of crystal. Everyone makes a run for it and discovers that on the other side of the wall is the mysterious hidden Kingdom of Jewels. There you find a plethora of Carbink, and sitting at the very top of the kingdom is none other than the mythical Pokemon Diancie. You step up to the Deontay, but notice something is off about it. The Deontay in your bag starts glowing, and suddenly, Deontay's Mega Evolved! So now it's up to you to defeat it in battle before you can capture it. Upon completing the battle, Dexio and Cinna remark about how magnificent it was and how they need to report their findings to the professor immediately. Nemona is excited and wishes she could have been the one to fight such a unique Pokémon. If you caught the Deontay, you can now give it Deontay from earlier and Mega Evolve it. After this, things begin to calm down. There are still a few things you can do, however. You can of course revisit the areas of Kalos you have access to, but you can also take Deontay to Rhyford. She'll have a bit of additional dialogue talking about it. I like Rhyford. Now, that story sounds great and all, but what about that evidence I was talking about? Well, let's cover things one by one. First, I want to cover that missing piece of the puzzle I mentioned at the start of the video. Take a look at this list of transfer-only Pokémon for Scarlet and Violet. Have you noticed there's a pattern to which Pokémon are on this list? Let me make it more clear for you. Every Pokémon on this list falls into at least one of three categories. First, we have starter Pokémon. Pretty obvious. The next ones are regional forms and evolutions for Pokémon in the Paldea Pokédex. This includes forms like Cantonian Tauros and Hisuian Zoroark, and regional evolutions like Cleavor and Alolan Raichu. The third category is made of legendary and mythical Pokémon. As you can see, every Pokémon on this list fits into at least one of these three categories, except one, Carbink. Also worth noting is that the only games to have every starter returning are Sword and Shield, because those are from the last main region, not counting Hisui, and X and Y, which of course was Kalos. Now, let's take a closer look into Carbink, shall we? Looking at the Pokédex entries for Carbink, it's said to be born deep underground. In both the Ultra Sun and Shield entries, they make reference to a kingdom of jewels housed in a large mineral vein, located deep beneath the surface somewhere in the world where Carbink live with their queen. The queen being referred to here is obviously Deontay, which itself is referred to as, quote, a sudden transformation of Carbink. Going a bit further, Deontay and Carbink obviously have a large connection to crystals, both in terms of design and the supposed Kingdom of Jewels. In the Scarlet/Violet book, there's a passage about the geography of the Great Crater. This passage says the following. Legends tell that precious stones or wondrous fruits have long slept in Area Zero's depths, protected by some manner of guardian. While not fruits, there is another type of wondrous plant found in Area Zero, the Herba Mystica. Worth noting too is that the precious stones were also found, from the passage titled The Legendary Treasure. There we found a cave with formations of gemstone, shining brightly as far as we could see. Perhaps the strange light itself is the guardian said to watch over treasure deep within the crater. Before I discuss that point, I'd like to also read an excerpt from the redacted entry. It bore a shell with layers of overlapping hexagons and gleamed brighter still than gemstone. Viewed as a whole, it resembled a mysterious, brilliant disc. Now, let's unpack those two entries. What we know is that something was found within the Great Crater that may or may not be a Pokémon, but what we do know about it is that it resembles a disc, it has a shell of overlapping hexagons, and emits a bright light that shines brighter than gemstone. Now, I'd like to read this bit from the mini-event in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire when you enter a Pokemon Center with a Deontay in your party. Deontay is the epitome of beauty among Pokemon. The divine symmetry of its body enables it to absorb light and display a radiance beyond the awareness of this realm. It is said that, upon Mega Evolving, Mega Deontay emanates a beauty that surpasses all known beauty. So now, we have confirmation from the games that Deontay can emit extremely bright light, even brighter than gemstone. But how about that disc-shaped shell of overlapping hexagons? That is rough to say, disc-shaped shell. Well, some have taken this as proof that Zygarde will be involved. But let's go back and take a look at that chart from earlier. Looking into Gen 6, we see that none of the legendary Pokemon will be available via transfer. Only the mythicals, which of course includes Deontay. Is this proof Zygarde isn't going to be part of the DLC? Well, not exactly. There's still a chance that Zygarde could return in the DLC, but we just don't have any information available to us yet that says whether or not it will. For now though, Diancie is still my personal top contender, but let's go back to that disc. I don't really know what to make of this, but looking at the depiction in the book, there's really no telling what this is. It appears to be even larger than planets, and there's even some sort of crown being depicted. The disc itself doesn't even resemble a disc, but rather a sphere. Now, this is just speculation on my part, of course, but what if what's being depicted here is the artist's interpretation of Mega Evolution? Think about it. Bright light brighter than a gemstone, a shell of some sort, geometric patterns. I think it's possible that this is a misinterpretation of a Diancie undergoing the process of Mega Evolution. I mean, even the sort of energy being emanated from the disc looks kind of like the energy released during Mega Evolution. We even see little stars during the animation too. This could also of course be a representation of terrestrialization, but terrestrialized Pokemon weren't seen until 60 years after this expedition. As for the crown, that would represent the Queen of the Crystal Kingdom herself, Diancie. Worth noting is that the person who wrote this entry, Heath, was separated from the rest of the team at this time, deep in the crater. We also know his memory isn't the best, as we see in the passage titled, A Phantom Memory. We also know that the sketch artist in the team has taken some artistic liberties, even drawing up Pokemon that don't even exist. It's possible then that a confused and disoriented Heath stumbled into the Kingdom of Jewels, caught a glimpse of a Diancie Mega evolving, and then, upon returning to the team, misremembered things while explaining it to the sketch artist, who also took some liberties while drawing what was being described. I mean, it's also possible that the drawing has nothing to do with the supposed disc Pokemon, but considering every other sketch is relevant to what's being written, that's unlikely. Now, for some other bits of information that I think connect nicely. Terrestrialization is caused by energy released by crystals in Area Zero. Mega Evolution is achieved via Megastones and Keystones, which are essentially gemstones. Professor Sycamore theorizes that Megastones were created in the aftermath of the Ultimate Weapon firing 3,000 years ago. The Paldean Emperor sent teams to search for treasure in Area Zero 2,000 years ago, meaning it could be possible that Megastones would be found in the Great Crater. I would say that, given the proximity of Paldea and Kalos, it's likely that Megastones can be found there. I mean, they've been found in Alola and Hoenn, though Hoenns are potentially from meteorites. And just in case someone wants to argue with me about this, because I know that there are some people out there who don't like this, yes, we can infer that Paldea and Kalos are near each other using real-life geography. It's no secret that Pokemon regions are based on parts of the world. They've been doing it for over 25 years. You cannot look at some of these maps and tell me they aren't based off of real-world geography. Looking at the real world, Spain and France are directly connected, and it just so happens that to the northeast of Paldea is an unmarked region, which also just so happens to be the same direction of France from Spain when viewed on a map. Now yes, some exact locations won't line up perfectly, but in general, they are geographically the same. To summarize everything I just talked about, I believe that Diancie/Mega Diancie is the supposed disc Pokemon seen in the Scarlet and Violet book. Diancie is the guardian of the legendary treasure, the Kingdom of Jewels, of which it is the queen ruling over the Carbonite area. This is the basis for my concept of what the DLC for Scarlet and Violet will be, in which we get sent off to the Kalos region to learn about the potential links between Carbink, Diancie, Mega Evolution, and Terrestrialization. With the help of Dexio and Sinnoh, Professor Sycamore's assistants, we managed to find the Kingdom of Jewels, encounter Diancie, and unlock the ability to Mega Evolve. Not only would this make sense as to why Carbink is the only Pokemon to be transfer only that isn't a starter, regional form or evolution, or legendary/mythical, but it's also a fun way to bring back Mega Evolution, which is something a lot of fans, myself included, have been wanting back ever since it was removed in Sword and Shield. Anyway guys, that's all I've got for now. If you liked what you saw, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. It helps me know that you like what I'm doing and encourages me to keep making videos. Anyway, I'll see you all next time.